Okay, Mrs. Sanders, if you could just describe the problem for me, we'll go from there.
Well, the problem starts when I'm stopped at a stoplight. It's like the car is sputtering, like it's gonna stall. But most of the time, the car is okay.
Okay, do you notice it mainly when you first start the car or after you've been driving it for a while?
No, I will have been driving for a while, but then, you know, the problem might disappear for 2 or 3 days, and then it comes back.
It's an intermittent problem. And of course, we need to see the symptom in order to fix it.
But of course, isn't it just like a problem to disappear when you get to the dealership?
Naturally, now that you're here, it's not going to do it, right?
I mean, you know, I wish you could just be there the next time it happens, because I know it's going to happen again. It's going to come back.
Well, intermittent problems are very tricky this way. Of course, there's no way for me to actually ride in the car with you all day, but I do have something that can.
Welcome to MasterTech. By now you know that the MOPAR Diagnostic System has become an essential tool for diagnosing tough drivability complaints. We've received plenty of success stories from techs who have used MDS on all sorts of vehicle problems. You also know that using an MDS data recorder like this Co-Pilot is the best way to pinpoint hard-to-find intermittents. Data recorders provide critical vehicle information to aid you in locating the source of the customer's complaint. But making a recording is only the first step in finding the problem. How you interpret the data and your understanding of how various engine controls function are major factors in reaching the proper diagnosis. In this month's program, we'll start by reviewing the procedure for making a data recording using the Co-Pilot. Then we'll take a look at analyzing data recordings, including identifying typical and suspicious signals, using other signals to verify a fault condition, and making a diagnosis based on the data recording. We'll also cover some related topics that will help you become more proficient with using data recorders. Let's go over the procedure for making a data recording using the Co-Pilot. As you may know, in addition to using the Co-Pilot, you may also use the DRB II or the DRB III scan tool to make data recordings. For this program, though, we'll concentrate on using the Co-Pilot. For the procedure on using either of the DRB scan tools as data recorders, consult your most recent MDS user's guide. And remember, the MDS provides online computer-based training for all data recorders. To use the Co-Pilot, starting from the main menu, highlight the Diagnostics menu option using the blue arrow keys on the MDS keyboard. Then press the Next menu key. At the Diagnostic main menu, highlight the Data Recorder functions using DRB or Co-Pilot option, and press the Next menu key. This brings you to the Data Recorder main menu. Highlight the Select Vehicle to Record option and press Next menu. At the Vehicle Diagnostics information screen, enter your technician ID, the vehicle's VIN, the repair order number, and the mileage. Press F4 to bring up a list of vehicles that the data recorder will work with. Be sure the vehicle you're working on appears on this list. Press Previous menu to return to the Vehicle Diagnostics information screen, then press Next menu to go on. At this point, attach the MDS data transfer cable to the Co-Pilot. Attach the 4-pin serial port cable to the MDS serial port. Then attach the 8-receptacle power cable into the MDS power port. Now you should be at the Select Template screen. Use the arrow keys to highlight the template you wish to record with. Then press Next menu. The template information screen shows the items that are selected to record. Press Next menu and the MDS begins programming the Co-Pilot for use. During the programming process, the MDS will keep you informed of the download status by displaying a % completed graphic. When the MDS is finished programming the Co-Pilot, it will display instructions to disconnect the Co-Pilot. Disconnect the MDS data transfer cable from the Co-Pilot. 10 seconds after the cable is disconnected, the MDS screen will automatically go back to the data recorder main menu. Now you're ready to connect the Co-Pilot to the vehicle you want to make a recording from. But first, you need to connect the appropriate vehicle data transfer cable to the Co-Pilot. Select a cable that is applicable to the vehicle you're working on. There's the SCI Data Cable, the SCI Data Cable for 1993 to 1995 LH vehicles, the data cable for Neon, Cirrus, Stratus, and 1996 and later vehicles, and the data cable for Talon, Sebring, and Avenger. Then connect the cable to the Co-Pilot. Make sure the Co-Pilot and cables are clean before installing them in the customer's vehicle. Locate the vehicle's diagnostic connector. On some vehicles, it is located in the engine compartment. On OBD II vehicles, it is under the dash next to the steering column. Connect the data cable to the diagnostic connector. Place the Co-Pilot in the driver's door pocket or in another unobtrusive location. Now secure the cables away from the accelerator and brake pedals. Connect the remote control trigger to the Co-Pilot. Make sure that the Co-Pilot and cables will not move around during normal driving conditions. Attach the remote control trigger to the visor. Be sure that the remote is positioned so that the driver can press the record button easily while driving. Then secure the cable away from the windshield so as not to obstruct the driver's view. To check for proper hookup, turn the ignition on. The green LED should light, indicating the Co-Pilot is ready for use. Once you're satisfied the Co-Pilot is hooked up correctly, you should make a test recording. This will confirm the Co-Pilot is operating properly before turning the vehicle over to the customer. This test recording will also serve as a baseline for the vehicle, allowing you to compare the data the customer captures to the data you record. When you make your test recording, remember to record during a normal driving cycle. Also, try to duplicate the conditions that the customer was driving under when the problem occurred. If, for example, the customer's complaint was at cruise, bring the vehicle to a normal cruise speed. To begin the recording, press the button on the remote. The green LED will start flashing, indicating the recorder is triggered. Continue driving normally during the recording. The Co-Pilot captures approximately 45 seconds of engine data per recording, and you can save up to 3 recordings. If you record more than 3 events, the Co-Pilot will save the 3 most recent recordings. Once you have the data captured, it is time to upload the recording to the MDS. Remove the Co-Pilot from the vehicle. Leave the cables and remote in the vehicle because you're going to reinstall the Co-Pilot after you upload your test recording. Connect the MDS data transfer cable to the Co-Pilot and attach the 4-pin serial port cable to the MDS serial port. Then attach the 8-receptacle power cable into the MDS power port. From the data recorder main menu, select Get Events from DRB or Co-Pilot. Then press Next menu. The MDS will display all the events you recorded and allow you to select which events to upload. Use the arrow keys to select an event to upload. Then press Next menu. The MDS is now uploading the recorded vehicle data. It takes about 65 seconds per event to complete the upload. After uploading each event, the MDS prompts you to assign it a name. Event names can be up to 40 characters long, using letters and numbers. There is some pertinent information that should go into the event name, so it can be easily retrieved later if needed. This information includes the engine size, the last 8 digits of the VIN, and the symptom or another reason for making the recording. Under no circumstance should you use slang to describe an event name. If someone shows the recording to a customer, or the recording had to be used in a court of law, this could prove embarrassing. After you have named each event, press Next menu. After you name each event, the MDS will display a message telling you the file was moved to the MDS hard drive. To move other events, press Next menu. When all events are uploaded, the MDS will instruct you to disconnect the Co-Pilot. About 10 seconds after you disconnect it, the MDS will automatically go back to the data recorder main menu. Your test recording is now uploaded and stored on the MDS. We'll take a look at it later in the program, but first, we need to reinstall the Co-Pilot in the vehicle. Reinstall the Co-Pilot by attaching the data cable and the remote cable. Secure the Co-Pilot in the vehicle as you previously did, and be sure to secure the cables away from the accelerator and brake pedals. Now we can instruct the customer on how to use the Co-Pilot.
Now we've installed the Co-Pilot and this remote trigger in your vehicle.
Okay, well, what do I do when the car starts to sputter?
Well, when you notice the problem occurring, you just press this button and that'll activate the recorder.
Okay, well, that's easy enough. Just press that, okay.
And here's a copy of the instructions in case you need to refer back to them. And
Okay.
that's it. Just bring the car back in when you've recorded the problem.
Okay, so if the problem occurs, then I'm going to go ahead and press the button, bring the car back,
That's all there's
and
to
I'm
it.
all set. Okay.
Right.
All right, thank you.
We'll see you later.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Now we're confident that if the symptom returns to the vehicle, we'll have accurate data to help us diagnose the problem. In the meantime, let's take a look at our test recording and examine how to interpret the data that is captured. Before we do that, here's a review question to try. Which of these items should be included when naming a data recorder event? A, the customer's name. B, the date. Or C, the engine size. The correct answer is C. You should include the engine size in the event name. It's important to know how to make a data recording, but just as important is how you interpret that data to make a diagnosis. You must be able to distinguish suspicious signals from normal ones, and you need a good understanding of how engine control components affect each other. And ultimately, you need to apply that knowledge to the vehicle concerned to reach a diagnosis and fix the vehicle. Let's move on to displaying the recorded events. At the same time, we'll take a look at our test recording for examples of typical drive cycle graphs. From the data recorder main menu, highlight Display Vehicle Events and press Next menu. Highlight the event you wish to display using the blue up and down arrow keys. Press Next menu. The MDS displays different graphs and data from the event you selected. Let's take a quick look around the display and point out some key features. At the top of the display is the vehicle description with the event name in parentheses. The component names and values are listed above each graph. On the left side of each graph is the scale with upper and lower limits. Along the right side of the display are the other sensors and switches that aren't currently graphed. The solid line running through each graph is the cursor, which is moved using the right and left arrow keys. When you want to graph a different sensor or switch, the MDS allows you to insert it at any location. To change graphs, press F4 on the MDS keyboard, which highlights the first graph. Use the up and down keys to select the graph you want to replace. Press the right arrow key to highlight the next item in the list on the right side of the screen. Use the up and down arrows to highlight the sensor or switch you want to graph. Then press Enter to change the graph. Press Next menu to restore cursor function. Now let's look at our test recording for some examples of normal signal patterns during the drive cycle. Here we have graphed 6 sensors that are good examples of normal signal patterns: manifold absolute pressure, throttle position, intake air temperature, engine coolant temperature, RPM, and oxygen sensor. The manifold absolute pressure sensor, or MAP, converts intake manifold pressure into a voltage that is monitored by the PCM. The PCM uses the MAP input to adjust spark advance and the air-fuel mixture during engine operation. As vacuum increases, map voltage decreases proportionately. A decrease in vacuum will increase the map voltage proportionately. During normal operation, the map signal should drop as the throttle is open and increase as the throttle closes. The throttle position sensor, or TPS, inputs a voltage to the PCM that represents throttle blade position. This voltage varies from less than 1 volt at idle to over 3.5 volts at wide open throttle, depending on the engine. The PCM uses TPS, among other inputs, to adjust injector pulse width and ignition timing. A normal TPS pattern with a steady tip-in will increase slowly, then level off at cruise. The intake air temperature sensor measures the temperature of the air as it enters the engine. The PCM uses the IAT input to adjust spark advance and injector pulse width. During a normal drive cycle, the IAT sensor graph, which displays in degrees or volts, should be fairly flat. ECT, the engine coolant temperature sensor, varies its resistance as coolant temperature changes. The PCM uses this reading to adjust air-fuel mixtures and idle speed. Typical coolant temperature patterns increase slowly, then level off at normal engine temps. ECT can be viewed as a temperature or a voltage. RPM can be used to support other suspicious readings. For example, an increase in RPM should follow a spike in TPS, unless there is a problem in the TPS sensor circuit. The oxygen sensor monitors oxygen content in the exhaust stream. The PCM uses this input for fuel correction during closed-loop operation. A normal oxygen sensor will switch from rich to lean rapidly. Typical voltages range from 0.1 volts in a lean state to 1 volt in a rich state, depending on the engine. We've just shown you some examples of typical signal patterns on a data recording. It's a good idea to maintain a library of normal signals on a floppy disk. That way, you can refer back to them for a comparison to suspicious signals. And speaking of suspicious signals, how do you know one when you see one? Not all concerns are easy to spot, but let's look at the more common indicators of a problem-causing signal pattern. First and foremost, you should be familiar with typical values for most component signals. Ask yourself, is the signal in question within specification? In this example, the TPS signal reads over 4.5 volts, well above wide open throttle voltage. This should cause you to suspect a problem, possibly an open harness or a short to power. Also pay close attention to the texture of the signal. Noisy signals are those which exhibit small, rapid fluctuations or hash lines while still falling within typical values. Another indicator of bad sensor signal is an unnatural or impossible change in sensor value. In this example, the engine coolant temperature sensor shows a cool down of 80 degrees in about 40 seconds while the engine is running. You should know that this is unnatural and suspect a problem with the sensor. These are just a few examples of suspicious signal patterns. When you discover a signal that doesn't seem right, the next step is to verify the condition by looking at other signals that will support your belief that the reading is suspicious. You should find at least 2 other supporting signals. This example shows TPS reading close to 4 volts, indicating a wide open throttle. Engine RPM should be increasing and MAP should decrease. If not, you should look for a concern in the TPS circuit. When trying to verify a suspicious signal, it also helps to look at the texture or relative quality of the signal in question and at the 2 supporting signals. Here, TPS is very erratic. If we look at MAP, it should have the same texture as TPS. We should also see spikes in the injector pulse width graph. We've shown you some examples of normal and suspicious signals and how to verify the condition exists by looking at signals from other sensors. Following these steps should give you a good start on diagnosing a vehicle concern. Of course, any diagnosis must be confirmed. After making the necessary repair or parts change, you should test drive the vehicle to be sure the symptom is eliminated. You may also wish to make another recording during the test drive in case the symptom does appear again, or for later reference. Try another review question, then let's look at some other topics that will help you use the data recorder and better understand the recordings. When attempting to verify the validity of a signal you suspect is bad, how many other signals should you find that support the concern? A, at least 1, B, at least 2, or C, at least 3? The correct answer is B. You should find at least 2 other signals to support your belief that a reading is suspect. When we set up the Co-Pilot earlier, we used standard templates, where the MDS automatically selects standard sensors and switches. By making your own template, you can customize the list of sensors and switches that the Co-Pilot will record. You may only want to record certain items for a given symptom, and making your own template allows you this flexibility. An added benefit to using custom templates is the fact that the data recorder can sample data faster when fewer sensors and switches are selected. You must create the template before programming and recording with the Co-Pilot. Let's look at the process for doing this. To make a custom template, from the Data Recorder main menu, highlight the Make or Change Templates option and press Next menu. The Vehicle Diagnostics information screen will appear. If the information is not correct, enter the new data. Then press Next menu. This brings up the Templates menu. Highlight Make Template and press Next menu. The MDS will display all available sensors and switches. To select an item, use the arrow keys to move the cursor over the item you want, and press the Enter key. Continue to use the arrow and Enter keys to select other items. Press Next menu when you have selected all your choices. The MDS will prompt you to assign a name to your new template. The template name can be up to 40 characters long. Use a name that is pertinent to the vehicle or symptom. Press Next menu to proceed. The MDS displays a message telling you that your new template has been created. It will be added to the list of templates saved on the MDS. Press Next menu. If you want to create another template, repeat the previous sequence. If not, press Previous menu to get back to the Data Recorder main menu. Now you can program the Co-Pilot with the new template. With the Co-Pilot connected to the MDS, as in the earlier example, highlight the Select Vehicle to Record option and press the Next menu key. The MDS will again display the Vehicle Diagnostics information screen. Press Next menu to continue. The MDS will display all available templates for the vehicle. Move the cursor over the template you just created and press Next menu. The custom template information is then displayed on the MDS screen. By pressing Next menu, the MDS will download the template to the Co-Pilot. When finished, the Co-Pilot is ready to record. The custom template is a very useful feature on MDS. It provides you with a powerful yet flexible way to gather the information you need to diagnose the vehicle concern. Let's look at some other useful features of the MDS data recorders. Some very helpful options reside under the Data Recorder main menu. At some time, you may want to change the trigger setting on the Co-Pilot. It is defaulted to Manual, which means it captures data only when the remote button is pressed. However, the Setup Triggers option allows you to change this. Highlight Setup Triggers and press Next menu. The MDS will display the Vehicle Diagnostics information. Be sure the correct information is entered. Then press Next menu. In addition to the manual trigger, the Co-Pilot can be triggered by sensor or trouble code. Let's take a look at how to trigger by sensor. To do this, we highlight the Sensor option and press Next menu. The Select Sensor screen will appear. Oftentimes, it is better to capture data based on the values of a particular sensor. If you suspect a problem, let's say with a TPS sensor, the Co-Pilot can be set up to automatically trigger if the TPS falls out of a given range, which is set by you. Changing the trigger setup must be done before programming the Co-Pilot. At the Select Sensor screen, highlight the sensor you wish to trigger on. Then press Next menu. You must enter both an upper and lower trigger value. The Co-Pilot will begin recording data if the sensor voltage falls outside the values you assign. You can use the default values, which are typical for the sensor you select, or you can change each value to another range. Be sure to put the larger value as the maximum and the lower value as the minimum. Use the up and down arrow keys to toggle between fields. Press Next menu to proceed. The MDS has now changed the trigger from manual to sensor. You can, however, always manually trigger the Co-Pilot, even if it is configured for automatic triggers. Press Next menu to return to the Data Recorder main menu. Another procedure you should be familiar with is copying vehicle events from the MDS to a diskette. This is important because the MDS can only hold so many recordings on its hard drive. It is also useful for maintaining a library of typical signals, as discussed earlier. From the Data Recorder main menu, highlight Copy to and from diskette and press Next menu. The MDS will display 4 choices: Copy to diskette and Copy from diskette, by vehicle event and by template. Since we want to save previous data recordings, select Copy to diskette by vehicle event and press Next menu. Now the MDS will display all vehicle events that have been stored. Use the up and down arrow keys to highlight the event you wish to copy. Press Enter to select it. If you want to copy more than one event, select the others as well. Then press Next menu. The MDS will list the events you have selected for copying and ask if it's okay to copy. Press the Yes key to begin. After a short wait, the MDS will instruct you to insert a diskette into the disk drive. Place a formatted disk into the MDS disk drive. If the disk already has data recorder files on it, the MDS will ask if you want to erase the files. Answer by pressing the Yes key. After a few minutes, the MDS will display a message letting you know that the files you selected were copied to the disk. Press Next menu. The MDS will then prompt you to remove the disk. Once the disk is removed, the MDS will go back to the Data Recorder main menu. You should take the time to label the disk with the name of the event you just copied. In case you need to review it, it will be easier to locate the right one. Our next subject pertains to fault code designations. But first, try answering this review question. True or false? You can always manually trigger the Co-Pilot even if it is set up to trigger automatically. The correct answer is true. You can always manually trigger the Co-Pilot by pressing the remote button, regardless of the trigger setup. Perhaps you've noticed that Chrysler has added hex codes to DRB3 and MDS display, and to the DTC descriptions in Group 25 of the service manuals. The hex codes were added to match codes to specific conditions. To view the hex code, at the MDS vehicle data display, press F3, or what you may know as the Help button. The MDS will display a menu of help options specific to the vehicle data display. Press Next menu until you reach the correct year and engine for the vehicle you're working on. When you get to the right year and engine, the MDS will show the hex code, the corresponding DTC, and the 5-digit P code. It will also give a description of the code, which will help pinpoint exactly where the fault is. To return to the vehicle data display, press the F3 key. Be sure to use the hex codes and their descriptions the next time you're trying to diagnose a vehicle problem that sets a fault code. Now try answering this review question. Which key do you use to view the hex code descriptions? A, F2, B, F3, or C, F4? The correct answer is B. Use the F3 key to view the hex code descriptions. Now let's look at the Co-Pilot recording that our customer brought back with the vehicle and see if we can locate the intermittent problem. Her complaint was an intermittent stumble at idle, and sometimes there was a slight miss at cruise. The Co-Pilot was removed from her vehicle, and the captured data was uploaded to the MDS. Now we need to look at the data recording to establish what is causing the customer's complaint. On the data display screen, RPM, TPS, ECT, map voltage, IAT, and the oxygen sensor are graphed. Looking at the vehicle's RPM, there does appear to be a drop in engine speed at idle. But what's causing it? A check of the vehicle's TPS reading shows the throttle position voltage at a normal idle reading. The coolant temperature also exhibits normal readings for a warm engine. Look closely at the map graph. There are some abnormal downward spikes, indicating a possible problem. We need to verify this by looking at other signals. The oxygen sensor is switching normally until the map sensor readings drop off. The O2 sensor momentarily stays rich, then returns to a normal switch rate. We have verified that the map sensor signal is suspicious with two other readings. The vehicle's RPM does show an apparent stumble, and the oxygen sensor momentarily stays rich before returning to normal. Does this point you in any particular direction? The map circuit was checked. The harness and connector were found to be in good condition. The PCM to map sensor ground circuit and PCM to map sensor voltage supply circuit were checked for proper operation, as described in the service manual. No problems were found. Therefore, since the map sensor circuit is known good, by default, the map sensor was replaced, as described in the service manual. The stumble at idle was caused by the drop-in map. This was confirmed by the sag in RPM and the O2 sensor momentarily going rich. The PCM did not set a fault code because the intermittent loss of map was faster than the PCM's fault parameter cycle counter.
Well, Mrs. Sanders, thanks to you and the Co-Pilot, we were able to find the problem.
Oh, good. What caused it?
Well, the intermittent stumble was caused by a bad map sensor.
What?
That's manifold absolute pressure.
Okay.
So we replaced that sensor, problem is fixed.
Good. And you guys didn't keep my car too long.
No,
That's
of course
good.
you helped with that too. See, once we have the problem recorded on the Co-Pilot, the repair is usually very simple.
Oh, okay.
So that's it. You're all set. Thank you for coming in.
Good. Thanks.
Have a good day.
Appreciate it.
All right.
We hope you continue to use these powerful tools to assist you in your diagnosis of tough drivability problems. We also hope you continue to enhance your knowledge of and experience with Chrysler's advanced vehicle diagnostic systems. That's all for this month's program. We'll see you next month on Master Tech.